attacking Bears. Then the defense, which hadn't put up a sack in 12 quarters, finally...
The year is 1987, the evening is grim and bleak, and an episode of Doctor Who plays before you. But halfway through the episode, something goes wrong with the broadcast. Someone or something has taken over the broadcast and is now in control and speaking to you. This is the Max Headroom Incident. Hey everyone, it's WOWMAN, and in today's episode I wanted to take a look at a case that has come to resurface over the years. A case that after 35 years is still very haunting. But before we get into the nitty and the gritty, please do not forget to subscribe, as that would help my channel a lot. I know here's the statistic that YouTubers put up all the time. But no, seriously, subscribing helps out the channel a lot, and also liking the video as well. And if you are feeling particularly crazy, you can also comment "Help Goomba," as he is in perpetual eternal pain. So please do that to help him out. Comment "Help Goomba." Yeah, that's just for the algorithm to bless us a little bit. Yeah, anyway, let's get into it. So this all started back on November 22nd, 1987. A broadcast was being aired on Channel 9. Specifically the 9 o'clock news. Chicago sportscaster at the time, Dan Roan, was doing a segment covering the highlights of the Chicago Bears about their recent victory over the Detroit Lions. Now, I'm not really a sports guy myself, so unfortunately, if I were alive back in 1987, I would have most likely missed this historical event that just unfolded out of nowhere. A piece of media that would go down in history. Now, what was different about this particular broadcast was that during the segment, the sportscaster Dan Roan suddenly and unpredictably completely disappeared from the screen, and for 15 seconds the TV remained a void of darkness. But from that darkness emerged a new figure. And at this point, back at the WGN TV station, the technicians were starting to freak out because whatever is about to play on their station could completely jeopardize their entire reputation. Because at first all they thought was that the broadcast just kind of went out and they just had to bring it back on. But it wasn't long before they realized that the entire station had been hijacked, as a person wearing a latex mask of Max Headroom appeared on screen. No audio was present, just the face of a man wearing shades and a wobbly background, staring at the station's thousands of viewers. Now, if this wasn't creepy enough, the Max Headroom persona actually originated from a movie released 2 years prior to the incident back in 1985. The movie was called Max Headroom, 20 minutes into the future. So a quick spark notes of what this movie actually was. The movie depicted a near future where corrupt corporation was in control of most of the world and able to manipulate the public for the sake of ratings as well as wealth. The entire film was a complete roller coaster, and in its essence was about a TV reporter named Carter, who, after discovering that the station that he worked for, Network 23, was sending out subliminal advertising that kills viewers and sometimes cause them to spontaneously get set on fire just from these weird wavelengths that the station was sending out to the viewers.
Stimulates these nerve endings simultaneously. In some subjects it causes a short circuit. Some particularly slothful, perpetual viewers literally explode. Simple as that.
So after uncovering this extremely bizarre thing that the network was doing, Carter gets set on exposing the network that he works for. But before he can leave the building, he's suddenly knocked out by the network's employees. But since Carter is this renowned news reporter, he can't just disappear. So what the network decides to do is to digitally copy Carter's mind and appearance. But something goes wrong and the copy is flawed, and the digital clone doesn't look anything like Carter and even has its own personality.
Hi, both of you. Welcome Big time. You want to check these ratings? I seem to have an audience of 2.
Right.
But they have it go on air anyway, thinking that, maybe nobody will notice. Meanwhile, the network sends Carter to a body bank where he will be harvested for his organs. And all the meanwhile, this digital clone takes over as the network's main reporter. And the people, they come to love this new digital version. But the story does not end there. Carter is eventually able to escape the body bank, gets on TV, and exposes the corruption of Network 23, what they did to him and what they are still doing to their viewers, killing their viewers and causing some to get set on fire. But the people don't care and dismiss it as boring news, and change the channel to watch Max Headroom instead.
Both of you. Welcome to Big Time.
So I know we took a little bit of a detour into what the case actually is, but I feel like this little piece of information is important to keep in mind as we go further into this case, to truly identify the motivation and drive of this deranged individual, because they were obviously a fan of this dystopian film and were perhaps trying to send a similar message as Carter. So cutting back to that first broadcast interruption of the sportscaster, as the technicians back at WGN were trying to get their broadcast back on, Max, the person behind the mask, was also facing their own set of obstacles. They weren't able to project any sound to the broadcast, so all that played was the empty stare of a person in a latex mask. No audio at all. But after 30 seconds, the technicians back at the station were able to get Dan Roan back on air, and Dan Roan continued his sports commentary in complete confusion as to what even happened, but was forced to continue his segment as if nothing happened.
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild.
And to the station, as well as the technicians, a crisis had been averted. But after celebrating this massive W, there began the speculation. The station was dead set at trying to figure out how all of this was possible. Could it have been a threat, a terrorist message, or perhaps even an inside job, a rat within their own building that helped this broadcast carry out? And so what ended up happening is that the station started to search their entire building to find the culprit, but their search was unsuccessful because they were able to figure out that the broadcast was pre-recorded from a third party at a completely separate location. And what is very fascinating about this particular case is that there were actually 2 incidents of the broadcast interruption. The masked figure Max was just getting started, and that first interruption was only the opening act. Approximately 2 hours later at 11:15 p.m., Max Headroom would make his second appearance on live television, taking over an airing of Doctor Who on PBS. Max Headroom disrupted the broadcast and was not only on air for a total of 1 minute and 22 seconds, but this time he was also able to broadcast audio. And it was time for the world to witness Max Headroom's message. Max's first words to the world were, "He's a freaking nerd." And this, of course, in reference to the Chicago Bulls announcer, WGN's radio's go-to sportscaster. However, now that Max was finally on air and had audio to broadcast to the world, he didn't really have a message that he wanted to send out. Max was simply on air to cause chaos to a television station. He performs nonsense by holding up a can of Coca-Cola and saying its slogan. But as the broadcast continued, the more eerie it became, and its sinister head began to arise. Max flipped off the camera and began humming a song. After, he began screaming nonsense and began to groan as well. Max holds up a glove and states, "My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty It's like you got bloodstains on it. The broadcast of Max Headroom had multiple accomplices: Max, his brother, and another woman who appears in the next segment. And as Max is speaking, the camera cuts to another angle. And I can't really show this, although I will describe it for you guys. It cuts to Max exposing his lower torso to a woman holding a fly swatter as she begins to slap Max repeatedly. The screen then goes black for another couple of seconds, and Doctor Who is back on air.
As far as I can tell, a massive electric shock. He died instantly.
And now what is very fascinating about this particular interruption is that Max Headroom was responsible for ending the broadcast. Because it was 11:15 p.m., there were no engineers on duty at the station, and by the time that they noticed that the signal was being hacked, Max had already ended their 90-second interruption. And so what shocks me the most is the fact that if Max wanted to, they could have kept the broadcast going for, maybe even hours until an engineer showed up at the station to stop it. And it leaves you wondering that for someone to take control of an entire TV station with free will to broadcast whatever they wanted, this stunt that Max pulled may have been the less of the evils. Regardless of how creepy and disturbing this broadcast remains to be, it still may be perhaps less horrifying than the even worse things that could have been broadcasted on air. Take for example, maybe what could have been broadcasted instead would have been a fake emergency alert system that could have caused a nationwide panic. Because imagine you're watching TV and instead of this airing, it's a fake government emergency announcement.
The 8 remaining nuclear missiles will strike the following locations in the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Mass panic would most definitely ensue. And by the morning after this interruption, the US government also came to this realization. The FBI and the FCC, the government agency that regulates the airwaves, had dedicated all of their efforts to finding the mysterious masked figure, coming out with a statement on the news later the next day saying that, "I would like to inform anybody involved in this kind of thing that there's a maximum penalty of $100,000, 1 year in jail, or both." And eventually the FCC had finally worked out how the hacker had taken down this massive broadcast station. By placing his or her own dish antenna between the transmitter tower, the hacker could have effectively interrupted the original signal. They wouldn't even have needed expensive equipment, just good timing and positioning. They were also able to pinpoint a location where the video might have been shot. Based on the background of the videos, agents from the FCC determined it was most likely the roll-down door of a warehouse and tracked it to a district that had warehouses with doors just like it. However, regardless of all of this information that the FCC had gathered, the culprit was never caught, and the person responsible for this broadcast remains at large, never to be caught. And it truly does make you wonder how easily broadcasts at the level of PBS and other large broadcast stations can be compromised. How with the right amount of skill and precision, a broadcast can be interrupted. And it's only a matter of time before the next Max Headroom interrupts our broadcasts. But honestly, it's cool because nobody even watches cable anymore, right? Yeah. Who has cable? And I may be a little bit more dramatic. It was 1987 at the time. I'm sure, these broadcast corporations have a lot better security now. I don't think you could do this in today's day and age. But yes, that was the Max Headroom broadcast incident. A very creepy, eerie, and very interesting true crime case. It's actually one of my favorites, so yeah, I wanted to make a video on it. But honestly, the fact that if they wanted to keep this broadcast going and ended it on their own terms is really what shocks me the most. There's even a comment on a re-upload of this tape that says that they saw this when they were in 6th grade when it actually happened. I feel like if I saw this in 6th grade, I would have reoccurring nightmares until my age right now. Just watching Doctor Who and then, bam, creepy deranged broadcast incident. But yes, please do not forget to subscribe as well as liking the video and commenting "Save Goomba" because he is always in pain. And yeah, we recently hit 100,000 subscribers, which is seriously crazy. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. All that I have, I owe it to you guys. So genuinely from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. It means so much to me. I never thought I would reach this point, so thank you. But yeah, this is the last video of the year, and we're ending it strong. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for spending some time with me. Have a great new year. I'll see you there, and please stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
If you encounter this person during the Sweet Dreams Sleep program, please do not approach or engage them.